a 1.5-inch scale Allchin Royal Chester traction engine renovation. Part 6, repairing damage to the paintwork. Matching the original colours can be difficult, and in this video I show how I do it, as I repair the paintwork on the wheels. This small tin is a mixture of different paints. It started out as Humbrol red, but I kept changing it to match the colour on my large showman's engine. I thought I may as well use this small mixing tin in order to find the correct colour for the Allchin's wheels. The other day I went over to Blackgates Engineering and I bought some paint. One tin of Buffer Beam Red Vermilion colour and another tin of Buffer Beam Red the normal colour. But unfortunately neither of these tins of paint matched the paintwork on the wheels. The first thing I've done is put some cellulose thinners into this aerosol can cap. Whenever I'm painting models, I always like to have something close at hand to clean the brushes. I opened the tin of vermilion paint and it needed a really good stir. Everything had settled inside the can. And for that I'm using the handle of my old toothbrush. And in no time at all it goes from a watery brown colour to a nice bright orangey red colour. Mixing paint colours can be very difficult when you're just doing it by eye. You need a good light source, and I've got a good light source in the workshop. It's nice and bright and it's not fluorescent light. That's not so good. Generally speaking, I use daylight balanced LED bulbs, and I do need to buy a few more for the workshop that's built onto the house. It's not as bright as my main workshop. It's time to match the paint colour in my pot to the paint colour of the wheels. In this clip you can clearly see that the paintwork on the wheels is quite badly damaged. The first thing to do is just apply some paint and then stand back and look at what you've done. And if you get it right first time, you're a better man than me. This is the original colour that I mixed in the small pot, and as you can see it's nearly the right colour but not quite. But really it's nowhere near, not good enough yet. So what I'm going to do is add some vermilion paint into my little pot. And before painting the wheel with this colour, I wipe off the paint that I've just applied. This time when I paint the wheel, the colour matches slightly better, but the point is I can still see a difference between the paint I've just applied and the rest of the paint, although you do have to take into consideration that the shade of some paints will change as they dry. When doing jobs like this, you really have to be honest with yourself. And although the shade of paint I'm applying is getting very close to the paint that's already on the wheel, it's still not good enough. I'm labouring this point a bit and I'm aware of it, but I'm trying to make you see that all it will do is not going to work in this application. I need to add even more vermilion paint. The paint on these wheels is very close to vermilion, but just a fraction lighter. And this could even be due to the length of time that the paint's been on the traction engine wheel. Time to try again, and as you can see the paint pot's getting quite full now. Now you can see the point that I'm trying to make. When I paint the wheel, I cannot see any difference in the paint that I'm applying to the colour of the paint that's already there. I'm taking into consideration that the wet paint will always look different because it's a lot shinier and obviously it's wet. Now I have the colour, I can start the paint job in earnest. Repairing the paintwork on these two traction engine wheels was difficult. I had to do them one at a time. I started the job by painting the inside of one of the wheels. Then after I'd done that, I rotated it and started to paint the front of the wheel. This was much more difficult because of the lining. Luckily, most of the damage was to the paintwork area around the lining. There was one area where the lining itself had been damaged. I'll show that at the end of the video. Repairing the paintwork on these two back wheels took over 3 hours. But it's worth doing a job like this because when the engine's all back together it will look far better. Painting around the rims without getting the paint all over the strakes was quite difficult. But it's quite easy to scrape off the red paint from the strakes once it's dry. You need a very delicate touch for this job. I can cope with this, but I really get a big fail when I try lining. After a while, the wheel starts to look a little bit better, but it's not finished yet. Some areas of the damage did need a second coat, but luckily I didn't have to wait until the first coat had dried. I applied a second coat fairly quickly after the first one. Now it's time to paint the flywheel with some etching primer. Here it is, and I'm squirting it into yet another aerosol can cap. I haven't shown it, but I shook the can vigorously to stir up the contents. This is etching primer, which will really bite into the metal and become a very good primer for a top coat. I'm not applying it very thickly, just evenly. I scraped off all the paint from around the inside of the rim of the flywheel, but I left the paint in place on the spokes because they're not too bad. There are some areas of the spokes that are chipped, but I'll apply some etching primer just to the damage. I decided to paint the etching primer around the edge of the flywheel on the front, and once the etching primer has dried, I'll be painting the flywheel using Great Northern Railway chocolate brown, which is probably not what it is, but it's near enough for rock and roll. Then I'll repaint the rim of the flywheel white. Back now to the rear wheel that I've been working on, and it's time to paint around the edge. Don't do this first, because I can guarantee that you will touch the edge of the freshly painted wheel either with your hand or, in my case, my jacket sleeve. I'm being very careful not to paint the strakes, and immediately I can see that this is the finishing touch to the wheel, and it looks a lot better. Now what I need to do is repair the very fine yellow line at this point, and as I've already mentioned, I'm not very good at this. I repainted the yellow line that ended up a bit too thick, then I overpainted it in red, and it looks okay. And just in case you've forgotten, this is what one of the wheels originally looked like, and the other one wasn't much better. Here's a bonus for viewers who like to watch paint dry. This is the paint drying on 2 traction engine rear wheels. While I was using the etching primer, I spotted some marks in the paintwork on one of the side plates, so I coated the damaged area using etching primer, and in the next episode I will paint this black. A little tedious, I know, but it has to be done. Stay safe, stay healthy, thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.